What is up, guys? I'm so excited to be back. I know this is the first time you're seeing my face in at least 2 months, but for me, it's the first time that I'm recording original content for this channel in almost 4 months. So there's been a lot that has happened, and I feel like similar to most Peace Corps vlogs that you'll see on YouTube, this one obviously kind of fell off for several months. Those months that we were not uploading were during training, and I'm gonna make a separate video talking about why I think that most Peace Corps members kind of fall off for the first several months and then even have trouble posting throughout their service. There's just so much to talk about there. Obviously, it's because there's so much going on, but I'll dive deeper into why that is in a shorter form video. This video is going to be a longer form kind of stream of consciousness update, but hopefully it's going to be a little more pointed than the last one, because I was rewatching that last update before I left the States, and it was really kind of rambling, which is fine. There was no plan for it. I literally just sat down and started. But hopefully this one will be a full update, but a little more concise. So with that, let's get started on the first thing that has happened since you saw me with long hair sitting in my room back home in East Tennessee, giving that update. Actually, the first thing that happened, which you saw, is me getting my hair cut. So, I actually like this. This is actually not the original haircut. It's been cut again. And honestly, it wasn't the best haircut that I got the second time. The sides are still kind of longer here, and it was supposed to be a fade. Not the best job. I can't blame anyone. Not a lot of people here have curly hair, but it's growing back out now and it looks fine. I'm probably gonna keep it like this, longer on the top, kind of coming down in front of my forehead, and shorter on the sides. I think it's a pretty clean look. A lot of people have actually told me that they like me more with short hair like this. So this might be the look for a while. I don't know. I miss the long hair, of course, sometimes, but honestly, it would have been pretty unrealistic here. It is a tropical country. It's very hot. It's extremely humid. As you can see, the sun is very intense even coming through this window. So yeah, I mean, I was pretty bummed that I had to cut it at first, but it's understandable for professional reasons, and definitely probably saved me in the long run from being just absolutely hot and kind of looking like crap every day, because I wouldn't have wanted to fix it every day. And as you can see, the beard, as long as it's well kempt, is acceptable. We'll talk about it more in a minute, but Peace Corps was pretty intense at first with their restrictions, but it's not quite as strict once you get in country. So let's get into that. So the first thing that happened when I left, when I got on that plane in Chattanooga and headed to LA, was heading to staging. So staging is like a 2-day period, kind of. You land and you settle in, and then the next day is like an all-day training. And then really the next day is training, but then in that evening of the second day is when you leave the country. So it's a 2-day training, but it's very quick, and it's not like you're like relaxing for any of it really. And there's so much change in that. You are landing in Los Angeles, which I had already been to California, I had been to LA, so some of that felt familiar to me, but I had never been to that area. You're landing, you're from a different part of the country, and you're catching an Uber to this hotel you've never been to. So just immediately, like, the change and the testing of your ability to adapt and be flexible begins, which is really what all of the beginning of Peace Corps is kind of about. Both somewhat intentionally and somewhat naturally, just the decision and the beginning of going into Peace Corps, the decision to go into Peace Corps and the doing of Peace Corps at the beginning challenges you and forces you to adapt and be flexible. Resilient, as they call it, which a lot of people who have tried to go into Peace Corps or who have been in Peace Corps, there we go, know that a lot of Peace Corps is testing your resilience. They even allude to it that way, I think. Anyways, we got to the hotel. I can't remember the name of it actually. It's a really, the Regal Hotel. It's a really old hotel in downtown Los Angeles. So we got there and we had initial training. We had an incredible trainer. She was a returned Peace Corps member who obviously her full-time job was training members specifically at staging. So she was doing the training and she was, giving us activities to learn about ourselves, giving us activities to learn about each other, and giving us activities to learn about what we were about to step into. So again, just instantly, it was a lot of change and a lot of learning about what was about to happen, which was cool because it was from the perspective of many Peace Corps staff members who had been in Peace Corps and could give us perspective. And it was preparing us for some of the immediate challenges that we were going to face. One thing I'll say about staging and even going into the next steps, there was a perception that I had about Peace Corps, of course, but also a perception about how the Philippines was going to be. And that was challenged at staging and continued to be challenged going forward up until this very moment. Because you, of course, create a narrative in your head about what you're about to do in any situation that you go into. And even for me, I was getting on that plane and headed to LA thinking, wow, I kind of had that pit in my stomach I talked about in the last update, because you know that no matter how much you think you have the experience figured out, no matter what your expectations are, it's going to be completely different from that. It's just too big of an experience. It's too different of an experience to not be. There's no way you can expect or prepare for everything. And that is accentuated or amplified by the fact that Peace Corps really doesn't tell you anything. They very much kind of keep you guessing. From the very moment you apply, you are given the information that you need to be given at the time. And I'm not dogging on Peace Corps, not really allowed to, frankly. But I think that the reason for that is because you are volunteering. So Peace Corps has to choose you first based on your qualifications, your interview, etc. And then you have to be medically cleared, which is kind of out of your control to an extent. And then you are being placed somewhere based on your qualifications and your training performance. So that is also kind of out of your control. So the information that you're given is limited because you are not really in control of where Peace Corps is sending you and whether you're accepted or not. There are the basic qualifications, but from the very beginning, that was one of the most frustrating parts of the application process, is not knowing what was happening or what to expect in any given week, any given month, at any given time. You just really don't know what's going on. I'm someone who usually takes the initiative, so I pestered them a lot because I really wanted to know what the heck was going on. But once I met other Peace Corps members, the experience was similar. So yeah, anyways, back to staging. You're immediately challenged by meeting all these people that you don't know from all over the country, getting to know them, and having this, we came to call it trauma bonding, because even from that very beginning, you're being kind of smacked in the face with the reality of this is happening. I'm about to go across the world and I'm about to serve for 2 years. If I make it, everyone wants to make it. That's the plan. I'm going to serve for 2 years, which 2 years when you're in the comfort of your own home doesn't sound like that long. But once you're here, 2 years, you realize it's going to be a long time. It's going to be a long, challenging journey. So staging was really cool. It was very eye-opening. It was very emotional. Of course, I lost my dad last year. And staging came around at the anniversary of losing him. It wasn't the exact day, but it was building up to it. And the heaviness of what I was about to do, not the heaviness, but it's a serious thing. You should not get on a 14-hour plane ride if you're not serious about it. And that was one of the points they got around to on the second day, leading up to getting on that bus and going to LAX, is if you have listened to all this information, if you have considered everything we've said, and you're not sure, you probably should not go. And you should have a conversation with us during one of the breaks. And I took that seriously. I was thinking a lot about it. I had waited for a long time for that moment at that time. But even I was second guessing, can you do this? Is this what you need to do? Specifically because of the events recently in your life. You lost your dad. Have you actually got past that? Are you actually okay? And I wasn't sure. And I remember we had a decent amount of time between the end of the last session and getting on the bus. And of course, I love to overextend myself, so I took a leadership role, and I was responsible for getting in contact with the bus driver, making sure that he knew where to go, and other people had different coordinating leadership tasks associated with us going to the airport and getting everyone's baggage, checking out, blah, blah, blah. So I'm kind of balancing that, and it's getting a little overwhelming. And I remember just video chatting my mom. And I was like, hey, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I don't know if I can do this. I'm not sure anymore because of, the seriousness of these talks. I was like, I don't know. And Dad's really heavy on my mind. And in that moment, sitting on these steps leading up to a conference room away from most people, I just started crying. I'm just sitting there crying on the steps of this very nice, very regal Los Angeles hotel with other people and other Peace Corps members walking by. And I'm just having a mini breakdown. But of course, my mom listened to me and she was like, you can do this. It's going to be okay. Your dad would be proud of the fact that you are still doing this despite what happened. If this is still what you want to do, then you can do it. And that is what gave me the motivation to get up and to go. The words that my mom said and the fact that she was there for me, and the fact that she reminded me that my dad was actually proud of the fact that I was doing this. He was supportive of it. And he would be proud of the fact that I was still going through with it despite his loss, and how he would have understood that it impacted me because he lost his dad. He would have gotten it, as odd as that is to say. So I picked myself up, thanks to my mom and the support of a lot of other family members and friends texting me and sending me love. And frankly, some of the other Peace Corps members already telling me, how much they admired me. After a day and a half, to have someone come up to you and say, hey man, I just wanted to say you're doing a great job. I can already tell that, you're someone who can step up and be a leader when you need to be. That, I really needed that, and the people out there, if they're watching this, they know who they are. I really appreciate that. I appreciate taking the time to remind someone else or to let someone else know, hey, I was just noticing that you're doing a good job, man. So yeah, I just wanted to give you that recognition. That's a special thing to do for people. But I picked myself up. I got the buses together, coordinated with the other leaders, and we did the thing. And we got on the bus. And I remember sitting on that bus wanting to cry more. It's dark. We're driving through LA traffic. And we get there and it's chaotic and there's a lot going on. I already feel like I know these people at that point. And to think back now, I didn't know them at all. But again, we're in this together. Already by staging with your batch members, you feel like you're in this together. I know we heard that phrase way too much during COVID, but you really do with Peace Corps. And we went to staging, and we went to the airport, and we got on that plane, and it was like step one of a crazy ride I'm in the middle of right now. But it really, really becomes real when the plane takes off and you know that you're flying over the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night, going to another side of the world to serve for 2 years in a country that you've never been to, in a culture that you've never been to, in my case. I think most people know this that are watching this channel, but this right now, Peace Corps, the Philippines, that's the first time I've ever been out of the country. Definitely the longest plane ride I've ever been on. So it's a big thing for me. You know, it's not just Peace Corps that's hitting me, it's many things hitting me at once. So yeah, from the very start, from staging and from that initial takeoff, everything is different. And there's so much to wonder and question. So many questions I have for myself. And, you know, that really kind of started my journey of self-discovery, self-awareness throughout the training process. Because Peace Corps just challenges you. You know, it's not just you going to a different country and learning about and finding community with other people in that culture, in that new country. It's also you going to a different country with other Americans from all over your country who are from different cultures than you are. And especially initially, you have to get along with them. You have to work with them. And, you know, for better or for worse, a Southerner from Tennessee has a much different perspective than someone from New Jersey or someone from Los Angeles, California. So it's challenging. And you have to be up to that challenge because you didn't come into this to be stubborn. You didn't come into this to set hard lines. Of course, you should have your boundaries and you should know your limits. But you came into Peace Corps, or you should have, to be changed and to grow and to become more self-aware and to become a better version of yourself that you want. The better version of you that you can see out there and you want to take hold of. Because there are some changes that have faced me that I've not wanted to make. There are some lines that I've drawn because it's just who I am, or because there's too many other challenges right now to change those aspects of myself. But there have been many challenges that I've faced that I've been willing to embrace, and it's been uncomfortable, and it's given me more anxiety, and it's forced me to lean heavily on the people I love the most 12 hours away back home. But it's been an incredibly fulfilling experience. And as challenging as it is, I can already tell, even at the staging time, that it's going to change me as a person forever. So anyways, before I start rambling and before this construction completely jacks up the video, let's stop at staging because it seems like, you know, we've got several more steps before we get to where I am now. And there's a lot to say. So let's go one update at a time. The first update, staging from Chattanooga to Los Angeles for 2 days of staging training with Peace Corps, and then from Los Angeles to South Korea, which was an awesome airport, but not much happened. It was just a layover. From South Korea to landing in Manila, that's the staging update. And when we start the next one with IO, or initial orientation, I'll talk about landing in Manila and those first 3 weeks of training. But for now, we'll talk to you later. Right on.